Hi, I'm Alan. I'm representing Classy Action, which is Group Delta. So our brief was to scrape data from the internet and trying to produce legally useful information for a legal researcher. So this is roughly what we came up with. We got a user interface where the user will give some keywords or companies I want to look at. This gets stored in a database, which then gets polled by a bunch of scrapers, which might run on various computers. It doesn't matter. All this is a modular, so each thing can run on a different computer, which will go and search the internet, various sources. We'll get onto that, what we're looking at in a moment. Then this gets cleaned up by a bunch of processing scripts, and they try to find some metrics, which gets stuck in the database, and then get displayed again by the user interface. So the data gathering, we had two targets. One was Twitter, which is me. So I use streaming and search APIs to look at both real-time data and data from the last 7 days. Rob, who is somewhere up there, looked at Amazon reviews instead, and he produced a lot of, various voodoo and witchcraft to switch around proxies. I think it's running about 1,400 processing threads, which all run a different proxy and switch around and randomizing access times in order to avoid Amazon's detection algorithms, which is actually quite successful. Google's a little bit harder to get around, unfortunately. Unfortunately, with things like Amazon, lots of companies don't like being scraped, so our client couldn't actually use this in their product, but they gave us the go-ahead to go and play around and see what we could do with that stuff. And this is a little UI which wrote for a scraper. I think we're getting to this rates of a few 100,000 tweets or 100,000 entries per hour, so we're doing quite well in the large-scale data collection. The next thing was processing, which was done by Hanan Oyars. They produced, well, firstly, they did a lot of research into various libraries because some might work better than others, and created some plug-and-play code which allows you to stick whatever metrics you want into there, and then each one can produce a metric. It goes and does its own analysis and works out what you want to do. I think this is what we ended up doing. So actually, there's first of all some data cleaning, because Twitter data in particular is really, really messy and horrible. So there's some filtering, removes sort of things like hashtags, URLs, emoji, all that stuff, and then it's run through the Stanford CoreNLP library. And finally, Jacob produced a UI which allows you to add in various groups. You can stick in keywords, and then once you've done some searching, you might get a few various graphs like these. So this is old Google Reviews scraper, which eventually got all of our proxies banned, so we'll ignore that bit. Then Twitter. So, and finally, we've got a count of red flag words, so things like, for example, lawsuit, sue, liability, things which might indicate a greater chance of success in the lawsuit. So what we can take away from this is, well, first of all, Twitter data is pretty horrendous in general. Yeah, so you've got poor grammar, you don't necessarily get any sentences, you get lots of spam. I think most searches for things like Samsung give you stuff, people selling accessories for phones. And also, another problem is that the NLP libraries that are out there aren't particularly robust. They're not very good at dealing with internet speak. So we've had to work around this. This was all an experiment to see whether such a product would be useful. We think it does have potential in some way, but you probably need a larger group, probably access to proprietary data and proprietary processing and stuff like that. So the takeaways we've got from this, we've got some pretty cool technology, so a proxy switcher. We've got very good rates of data mining at this point, really pushing at the limits of what Twitter can throw at us. And also we've put a lot of effort into making sure that our code is reusable for similar products so that our client could use the same product in the future or change it to suit their needs. So that's about it. Thank you very much.